Hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining me live if you are, and if you're watching this recording later, thank you for taking the time to watch, listen, and learn more about the new supervised CNS program I've built out for you. My name is Dr. Tara Torres. I'm a doctor of clinical nutrition, a certified nutrition specialist, and a CNS supervisor. Today, I'm going to walk you through what it actually looks like to go from being a student to feeling confident working with real patients, and becoming a certified CNS. I am a UWS student. I guess I should tell you a little bit about me. I completed my master's in human nutrition and functional medicine from UWS. Prior to that, I was a Kaplan University student, and with a bachelor's of science in nutrition science. I was an Army medic for 7 years prior to that. And I've worked in a lot of different areas in healthcare, from cardiology, OBGYN, GI, lots of different things that I think played really well into my experience now and what I'm doing. So I liked the master's program so much at UWS that I decided to enroll in their second annual cohort for the DCN. And then I completed that a year or two ago now. And I've been practicing on my own since the master's program, actually. But that's a story for another time that I'm happy to share. So, yeah, I've been in practice for a little while. I did my CNS under the supervision of Dr. Carrie Felmley, who's a doctor of clinical nutrition, RD, CNS. So, I'm hoping to bring that experience into this program. And also, I've been listening to a lot of collective experiences across the board and different internship programs, and really just trying to pay attention to what's missing. And I'm hoping that this program will kind of fill that gap. So, finishing your hours is one thing, but feeling confident with a real patient is something completely different. And what I've seen over and over again is that people complete their hours, but then they still don't feel ready to practice. And so then they start looking for either jobs, or they go into the IFM program, or they pursue more degrees and certifications. And so I'm trying to bridge that gap here. Most of the experience that I've heard has been a lot of passive learning, like watching videos, maybe observing, but not actually doing any work alongside that. And so you just end up kind of checking the box and not really putting anything into action and actually retaining it in your head. There's very little feedback. There's not a lot of structure, and there's a lot of confusion around what even counts towards your hours. So that's what I wanted to fix. Now, not all hours are equal. You can log time without actually building skill. Watching is not the same as doing, and information alone doesn't translate to confidence with a patient sitting in front of you. So let's change that. Most people go into this thinking, I just need to finish my hours. Some people come to me in varying degrees of where they're at in their program, and I'm happy to kind of plug you in wherever you're missing things. But what happens at the end is usually they're done on paper, but they don't really feel ready to see patients. And that's the part no one really prepares you for. So, CNS hours should actually be preparing you to practice. You should be learning how to think through a case, build a protocol, communicate clearly with the patient, with your supervisor, with referring physicians, and make decisions on your own with confidence. So that's the goal, not just completion and checking the hours. We want you to think critically. We want you to learn how to build your own protocols, look at my protocols and the shared protocols that I have available. And here you can see one of the modules that I have included. So we've got professional skills and SOPs, and I'll show you more snippets here as we go, but this is just an example of what we've included. So time management sessions, documentation and chart audit prep. So how to cover your butt when it comes to insurance liability, making sure the patients have everything they need, making sure that insurance has everything they need. We do cover cultural sensitivity across the board. You're going to see that, I think, in any certification program. I also included boundary setting and self-care, just because as a practitioner of any kind, you can easily burn yourself out, but certainly in functional medicine, I think with the in-depth complex cases that we take on. So there's a section on that. And then I have standard operating procedures, mostly so that you can so you can run your own clientele through this program without having to get a hold of me in case you can't get a hold of me, but also so that you can have the groundwork and the foundation for starting your own business or working for anybody at any point in time in the future. This is basically standard operating procedures, like what you need to do before you meet with a patient, what you're going to do as you're meeting the patient for their initial, for their follow-up, and all of the closing stuff that you have to do after that. So we have a client session opening script. There's certain things that you do need to confirm, like their name, their date of birth. You need to let them know that it's being recorded and that you are an intern for this practice. Um, Likewise, they'll be filling out a form, completing that, but you just have to verbalize it. And then we do have a post-visit checkout from everything you need to do with your SOAP note and your protocols and your plans to the patient, to billing, to lab ordering and tracking and managing that. So again, there's a gap here that I keep trying to fill. I don't want you to just finish your hours, but I want you to actually be prepared when you're ready. So here's some more examples of the training modules that you can expect. Client-centered communication, dietary history, health and medical history, lifestyle factors. Now, a lot of this stuff you're going to have covered in your master's programs or certification programs of some kind. We just want to make sure that it's IFM based, that it's CNS based, and that it's comprehensive. So like laboratory values, I'm going to go over conventional lab ranges as well as functional medicine optimization ranges. We're also going to go over every single functional medicine test there is, from Dutch hormone, Genova stool, SIBO breath test, H. pylori breath test, food sensitivities, candida testing, and so on. We'll assess supplements and medication interactions, nutrient deficiencies, interactions. We're going to for sure get a ton of nutrition care planning from watching my videos, observing me observing you, and then you going into independent practice. You're going to get plenty of practice developing care plans. SMART goals will be covered, prioritizing interventions, evidence-based recommendations. So creating PES statements, nutrition PES statements, and then behavior change strategies. So everything you could possibly need to run a practice. Now, this is broken down into 3 different phases. We have observation, supervised practice, and then independent practice. Each phase builds on the last. So you're not being thrown into something you're not ready for. Let's talk about phase 1. This is where you're observing real patient sessions. You're learning how visits are structured, how I ask questions, how I think through a case, how I chart, and how I build protocols. I'm also going to include guest practitioner, so you can get a variety of practitioner interview styles and experiences. And again, this isn't totally passive. You're actively learning how this works in real practice. So while I do have recordings in this stage, there is an observation worksheet that you do have to submit at the end of every single video that you completed, and then you submit it to me. I review it, and that's how you get credit for watching those videos. We have about 40 in there right now, so you can get 40 hours of observation before you jump on Zoom calls with me. So we go from 40 recorded hours of video to you hopping on to, you get access to my calendar, and I'll tell you which appointments you are allowed to jump on. And this is all broken down in our interview when we meet face to face. So you tell me what your schedule, your availability is, what your state's in. We'll discuss licensing, scope of practice for you in that state under my practice. And then we'll define the schedules and when you can join me. But you get a combination of, yes, a few recorded videos, but then I want you to jump into a visit with me live and watch that with the patient permission. You'll complete your own form again, just like you do on the videos, and submit that afterwards. And then you're going to move into phase 2. Now, phase 1 is expected to be about 1 to 3 months. Phase 2 is expected to be about 4 to 6 months. So it just kind of depends on your availability. If you're working full-time, if you're still in school, full-time, part-time, and how much time you can spend on that. With the CNS, you have about 5 years to complete this. So this is just a rough guideline for you. But at the end of the day, we want to make this fit in with your schedule and ours. So we're flexible and we'll meet you where you are. Now in phase 2, again, months 4 through 6, this is where things start to shift. Instead of me leading the visit, you're not watching anymore. You're going to be leading the visit. You're going to be thinking, speaking, and making decisions, and then getting real time feedback on what you're doing well and what needs improvement. So I don't say it during the call. I say it afterwards, and I'll give you my advice. But this is designed to get you to go on your own in the next phase, and we'll talk about that. So in the first phase, you have to meet every 40 hours. You submit those forms, and that's how we're tracking that. In this phase, we do weekly check-ins or every 40 hours, whichever comes first. And then I have links for how with the link to schedule a nutrition intern so that you can schedule your own people for an initial consult or follow-ups, and then like the SOPs and how to run that and everything. But it's pretty simple in phase 2 by the time you get there. Um, Phase 3, this is where you're seeing patients independently. So you're still under Sky Therapeutics, you're still under my calendar and my watch, but we'll set you up as a practitioner in my portal. You'll get your own calendar. It syncs with Google. So like if you got other stuff going on, we can't invade your time, but you'll set your availability, and then I can plug in patients. You can bring in patients on your own as well. Because it's go at your own pace. We estimate about a year to 2 years completely to complete this program and get all of your hours. But phase 3 is where the bulk of your hours is going to be collected anyway. So at this point, you're building your own workflow, you're managing your own visits, but everything is still reviewed before it's finalized. So we still have to meet every 40 hours or every 40 patients. And so we'll schedule those check-ins. I have a little Practice Better link. You put yourself on my calendar. We meet regularly to make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to be doing. And then there's going to be an exit interview and a case review at the end of all of this. So we'll talk about what to expect. And then I also have a little section here, if you look at the modules on discovery calls, because that's very much a part of this. And I think something that's often overlooked in our nutrition and functional medicine practices, and I think the education around it. I feel like from what I've heard and seen and witnessed and experienced, and I think discovery calls are going to be a integral part in what we do, because I do paid marketing for Sky Therapeutics in multiple states to bring in patients. And so instead of having my administrative assistant take on these calls, I would like the intern to take on these calls. Like our administrative team is going to be putting discovery calls onto my schedule and your schedule so that we can all get the opportunity to meet and greet and practice that sales technique and that brief patient intake. And I'll go over strategies for how to do that, and how to close that call and get a really high close rate on that for you. So that at the end of the day, you can walk away and either have the opportunity to stay on board with us as a certified nutrition specialist and a practitioner running your own schedule, or you can take this experience, you can apply for other jobs and work as a clinician somewhere else. Or you can start your own practice if you have that entrepreneur spirit and you want to do that. Either way, it works for me and I'm here to support you. So these are all skills that you're actually building. It's not just knowledge, but it's about application, how to run a visit, how to build a protocol, how to document correctly, how to think through a case from start to finish. So you're going to work through another section here called charting. So we have charting options. We'll talk about your nutritional PES diagnosis. I'm going to go over my unique charting style. You'll get plenty of knowledge on that, but then I'm also going to bring in other notes from other practitioners. We'll talk about the SOAP node, the ADIME, and then AI charting options. AI is something I think we can't avoid. We need to at least have a conversation about it and what is right to use, what's wrong to use, and all the things that there is to talk about that. So you're also learning how to build a real practice and how it operates. So again, there's pros and cons to working for yourself and working for somebody else. And I fully believe that whoever you work for can make or break your situation and your work home life balance and all of the things. With that being said, there's a lot of behind the scenes things that you have to do when you're running your own practice. So I get the appeal of doing both, and I want to support you doing both. So in addition to learning about Practice Better and using Practice Better, we're going to learn how to work through labs, how to interpret them, how to communicate with your patients and do discovery calls. And then we're going to go over how to do different service recommendations within that. But I'm also going to have a section for how to take your CNS test exam. That's something that's not quite in there yet. My job is to prepare you for the hours and all of this, but I will have a section on at least where you can find study material for your exam. And then I want to also include a business section for those that are interested in your own business, everything from the steps that you take after your CNS, which is in there. But what about state licensure? I want to make sure that every state, every one of you interns who hopefully signs up knows what you need to do within your state or some sort of guideline to figure that out because every state is different, right? And then the steps that you need to do after that. So in my practice, in order to even become an intern, you have to have like HIPAA liability and those types of things. So it's going to be very similar. Um, and then some for a business owner. So just something to keep in mind if you do have that entrepreneur spirit or you want to work for somebody else. So again, I just want to reiterate, this is about being ready. It's not about checking a box. So at the end of the day, someone's going to be sitting across from you and expect you to know what you're doing. And I want you to be prepared. Now, this is for someone who's serious about this path and you want to be a CNS. If you thrive in structure and routine, if you want that constructive feedback and you want real experience, not just hours on paper. This is not going to be for you if you're looking for the fastest route, the easiest route, and if you're not open to constructive feedback or you're just not ready to commit the time and the effort, this won't be the right fit. So, how it works, this is a monthly program, and you'll have supervision, access to the tools, all the templates, protocols, and real patient exposure throughout this entire process. It's structured so you're always progressing. So, like I said, you have the 1 to 3 months, 4 to 6 months, and then you have that last 1 to 2 years of completing your hours, or 1 to 2 years total. But so that you're constantly progressing and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's a long journey, I know, between school and this internship. There is a monthly investment for the program, which covers your supervision, training, and access to everything we've talked about. The cost is $300 per month right now. We offer payment plans through Practice Better. You can pay as you go, but you can also use Klarna or Affirm in programs like that Practice Better is affiliated with if you're needing some financial assistance there. And I'll go over the details with you individually during the interview so we can make sure it aligns with your goals, because sometimes people have already completed the observation and they just need supervised or unsupervised or some combination of that. So depending on where you're at, say you've worked with somebody else, just let me know what hours you're working on. When you sign up for the interview, I'll link it. But the interview process is not just an opportunity for me to look at your resume and your cover letter and your transcripts, but also an opportunity to just converse and see if we'd be a good fit to work together. So any questions that you have, I would encourage you to write them down and bring it up there. And then as soon as we agree on a schedule and you sign the contract, there is a contract to sign, you'll be onboarded. And that's what you can see right here in these modules. We have the contract, how to review and sign it. You do need a HIPAA training, like any place you're going to work at. If you don't have one already, I've linked one to, where you can get it online, very affordable. You also need to have an insurance, liability insurance, and you have to upload that certificate. So if you don't have that already, again, I have multiple options linked for you and we'll get you set up. It's very affordable. And then we're going to have you integrate some third-party apps like Zoom, your Google Calendar. You'll get access to IFM documents if you don't already. I know UWS has uses them a lot, and so a lot of students may have them. But if you're coming from another program or another school, I have access to those forms, and you'll get access. There is a pre-internship orientation session, so that's where I kind of go over and I make sure you've got your HIPAA, your insurance, that you've onboarded, that you've done all the things that you need to do, and then I'll walk you through the next steps and every step of the way. I also plan to have monthly nutrition office hours where you can hop on if you have any questions in addition to us meeting one-on-one. And then there is an internship handbook, an agreement, certification requirements. So CNS is very complicated as far as like what hours fit for what. So I've outlined that there, and we're constantly updating it and pulling from their website. But you'll have everything in one place within our module and our program. We also have ethics and scope, communication channels. I primarily use Practice Better. Feedback schedule, which I kind of covered. You meet, the requirement is that you meet every 40 hours. The CNS supervisor approval application addendum. So this is the very first thing that you have to do in order for us to work together. I'm already an approved supervisor, but in order for me to supervise you, we need to have this form completed and submitted so that they can approve our relationship together. Very easy, like one-page document to fill out, not complicated at all. And then the BCNS candidate SPE training. In order for you, you may have already done this if you're coming from somewhere else and just trying to complete your hours. If you're totally new to this and you've never even started your CNS hours, that is going to be linked in there. It'll take you to their website. There's some videos that you have to watch, and then it gives you a certificate. I need a copy of that certificate in order for me to work with you. The CNS does require that I have that on file. So just a few things, but that's basically what the onboarding is. It's just a lot of paperwork, making sure we have all of the liability contracts signed and things like that. So if this feels like what you've been looking for, the next step is to apply and schedule an interview. So I'm going to go ahead and link that. That's where, again, we're going to talk about your goals, where you're at with your hours. If you've already got some, if you're starting totally new, I'll go over your timeline. We'll talk about your schedule, my schedule, and where we can kind of fit and work things in together. So I just want to leave you with this. You can finish your hours anywhere. But that doesn't mean that you will feel ready when you're done. This program is designed to change that. So I just want to let you know that limited spots are available, but we will be accepting rolling enrollment. So applications are welcome right now. We can set up the interviews subsequently from each other. But I am one person and I'm just looking to onboard one person at a time right now. That may change in the future. So first come, first serve, please apply. I will tell you to apply also because I'm a graduate of the doctorate program and I've been affiliated with UWS and a lot of different graduates from that program and CNS certified practitioners who I think should become CNS supervisors. So my goal is to have a couple different supervisors and a couple different interns so that we can collectively have a well-rounded program. So if that's something that appeals to you, again, I just want to encourage you to submit your application and begin this process. Because even if you are not starting in the next couple of weeks or month or two or three, there may be room for you in the next quarter as we start to bring on those people. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'm happy to answer them. You can email me at info@skytherapeutics.co. And again, I will go ahead and link the interview link so that if you're ready to do that, you'll go ahead and set up your interview and then it'll prompt you to upload your resume, your cover letter, and your transcripts. You don't have to email that to me now. Do that after you book your appointment. And then I will also link, if you need more information, to the overall program. I know I put little screenshots of each of the modules, but I'll go ahead and send you the overview of that so that if you want to kind of look at everything, you can. You'll only be able to see the sections and the modules, not the actual content. But I'm constantly adding to that. So if you're looking at that a couple of weeks from the date of this recording, I'm constantly adding and refining this program. So feel free to poke around. And yeah, like I said, I hope to hear from you. Let me know what questions you have. And I'm looking forward to meeting every single one of you. Thanks for taking the time to listen or watch this. And I'll talk soon.